Most people in America do not understand the difference of the classes, the wealthy versus the poor and the middle class, and how they make money, because it is very different. In fact, within each one, it is divided up into basically two different classes, and they could not be more different. So in this video, I'm going to walk through how the wealthy make their money and why it is so different from every other class in America. So first, let's make it very clear. Rich, wealthy, and super wealthy are not the same thing. In fact, they are wildly different. The super wealthy and the rich could not be further apart, just like poverty versus the rich. Let's walk through and start with lower class. For the purposes of this video, we are not talking about homeless. We are talking about the working class, people that are actively engaged in labor to earn money. The lower class, we have more of the poor and the middle class or lower middle class. This class receives its income through labor. I have a job, I sell my time, I produce, and I get paid. I am getting paid based upon the time that I spend doing whatever function that is. Now, this can be all sorts of things. I did lots of manual labor, everything from working on farm, digging ditches, making fences, working at veterinary clinics, doing not fun jobs. And I just got paid for working that hour. I got paid a minimum wage, I did the job, and I moved on. I had other jobs, I had 2 jobs, but it was all predicated on my hours worth of labor. I would go and try to find jobs that would pay me more per hour than what I currently had or what was out there, trying to maximize my rate per hour. This is traditional, and this is the starting point for the vast majority of everyone in the United States. Now, the next class is the middle class, and by middle class, I'm really talking about middle to upper middle. This class is different. Generally speaking, this class earns off of intellect or knowledge. Think of this class as college graduates that go and get a job predicated on what they learn. Or this is a migration from labor to knowledge, as in I'm doing labor and I'm gaining work skills. As I gain work skills, the value of my labor increases, but it's not because of the time spent. It is because of the knowledge that I have to perform that task or that service. This is where we can get a large jump in earning potential. A lot of people feel jaded after going to college and then not being paid what they believe they should for having that expenditure to gain knowledge. The problem is, when colleges originally started, there were only a handful of degrees, and the degrees were predicated on what society needed. Today, there's a degree for everything, and just because there's a degree, it doesn't mean that anybody needs that knowledge. You can pay to get knowledge, but it doesn't mean it's useful. Now, this is a big divergence over the last 20 and 30 years, basically where colleges and institutions wanted to get more money, so they made more products to sell, whether they were useful or not, and people bought them. Why? Because all our parents told us, go to college and you're gonna get a good job. Unfortunately, when they went to college, that was true. Why? Because they could only get degrees in things they wanted. Whereas today, you go to college and the college sells you a degree that nobody cares about because they want to make money. That's led to some unrest because now you have debt for knowledge-based skills and you go work a manual labor or a job that is contingent on your labor. And rightfully so, they're upset. This is even worse when they see people that worked hourly, manual, or just service-based jobs, and they gained skills through that process. And they are getting paid higher wages than the people that went to college. Why? Because the skills that they gained and that knowledge have value. That is the big difference, though. It is the knowledge that they have obtained. They can do it through college or not. That sets them apart, and they're able to leverage their income through their knowledge. It is the fastest way to grow your income. This separation can be huge from someone that makes $30,000 to $40,000 a year to someone that makes $300,000 a year. Now, it varies wildly, but in general, this is the layout of how the market pays us. Once we leave the middle class and the lower class, it changes dramatically. First, you have to understand there's a difference between rich people and wealthy people. Rich people earn a large income. Wealthy people earn an income not through their labor. They earn it through capital and investments and ownership, things that make them money without them having to work. This is a big difference because you can be rich and wealthy, as in you can earn really high incomes and you can put that money to work. Traditionally, that is how people became wealthy. They started out working hourly, they gained skills and knowledge that made them earn more money, they invested that money, and over time became wealthy. This is that long road that we see. This is why the vast majority of millionaires and billionaires in the United States are over the age of 55. Now, we see rich people that spend lots of money. This is everything from high earners. That could be a musician, that could be an actor, that could be an attorney, people that are paid a lot of money for their time. Wealthy people, we usually don't see as much. They are not nearly as in the spotlight. Why? Because rich people tend to have skill sets that are so good and they're paid so much for them that they are a lot more visible because people know and they want those skills and that knowledge. So they pay them a lot of money for it. Wealthy can be a lot more under the radar. You can have someone that makes $250,000 a year that could be a fourth of what a rich person makes, but they are wealthy. The reason is they don't have to work for that money. It just comes to them. Now, this is where things get interesting. Wealth is what you make off of investments and ownership, i.e. capital. And capital is not income. Capital is something that works for you. That's what goes out to investments. Income is something that you bring in and you spend and you save, right? Capital is different. Capital is what you move around. You make income to try to accrue enough to have capital to use. Wealthy people leverage their assets, not their time. Wealthy people use capital, ownership, and all their resources and leverage it to make money. Whereas rich people and upper middle class, they leverage their time through knowledge and skills. The problem is that is still capped out. You only have so much time. The wealthy, their time is not necessarily correlated with their income and earning potential. They can leverage things like legal documents, ownership structure, capital invested, relationships. They can leverage people through employing. The wealthy class are the ownership class. Once we move into this category, though, just like the others, there is a vast difference, and they are not the same. The 1% does not equal all billionaires. In fact, the 1% has more in common with lower class than they do billionaires, from a standpoint of how close they are to their income and ownership potential. So we need to spend a little more time understanding the wealthy 1% because they are vastly different. First, the idea that the wealthy inherited their money is simply not true. Even by billionaire status, less than 20% of them inherited their money. Of that 20%, the vast majority of millionaires that inherited money, it was less than $100,000. They did not inherit their millions. So the vast majority, 90+% of all multi-deca 100 millionaires and even billionaires never inherited their money. Now, how can one ascend from having hundreds of thousands to millions to billions? There is no way you can do this through your time or even your intellect. The wealthy class can be a whole lot of people, from the millionaire next door to the jet-setting private jet flying around the world to the big yacht owners and the billionaires. First of all, lower 1% or your traditional multimillionaire that's basically just retired. Once again, the vast majority of these people are over the age of 55. Very few are under the age of 40 and even less under the age of 30. It is a very, very, very small percentage because capital invested, leveraged, that takes time. Where we see the capital that grows the fastest is through leverage of business entities, normally public markets. They are leveraging people that are working, businesses, capital, everything. And they are taking over entire industries. And that's where we get to the top. The top are titans of industries. They aren't just using capital, they are literally using the economic systems and government systems of the world. Governments have to work in tandem with them because they own infrastructure. Think of Amazon. Amazon is worth a lot of money. It has made Jeff Bezos the second richest person in the world, but he had to basically destroy entire industries and consolidate them to one single company. They have infrastructure everywhere. They have hundreds of thousands of employees. They created entire new sectors and technology platforms that they could use to reach millions and billions of people all over the globe. He dominates entire industries, not just one. That is the level when you get to the top of the top, the billionaire, the 0.001%. It is beyond anything that millionaires or decamillionaires know or understand. That is a winner takes all. A company dominates, consolidates, and they are titans of industry. That is rare, astronomically rare. Why? Because markets are very competitive. That takes huge amounts of risk. And the vast majority, 99.99999% of everyone fails trying. What is much more common is wealthy that are millionaires and decamillionaires. These are people that had businesses, everything from plumbing companies to HVAC companies to investment companies, or people that earned high income and use their own money to invest. They're leveraging theirs and other people's capital to own and participate in the economy. They use debt and they use all sorts of other things, including legal, to protect them. And that is leveraged. So their capital works for them to make them money, but it also grows at a disproportionate rate. What they look for and are trying to do is maximize growth through condensing time that their capital turns over, while also increasing the returns that they get. This may be investing in startups or real estate, lots of things. But this is the top percentile that we usually call the 1%. The 1% that are wealthy. What separates them is their use of capital and ownership in the economy, not their time nor their intellect. Yes, their knowledge and intellect may got them to understand how they can do that, but it is not how they generate the returns. This is actually the fastest way, and some people bypass, where they go straight to using capital. Well, how if they don't have it? They get other people's capital. They invest for them and others. They focus, they learn, they grow intellect, they use capital, which is a form of leverage. They can leverage their time, energy, and they can buy and own the economy. This is the fastest way to become wealthy. Now, the thing that's important to know is each one of these sections is not only important, but 99% of all Americans go through this. Labor, intellect to capital. That is how it's supposed to work. This becomes harder with things like inflation, and the middle class shrinking means there's less capital that they have to create more wealth. This also coincides with consolidation of wealth amongst the biggest. We are at a point in America where wealth consolidation has happened massively since really the 1990s on. That was the primary way returns were generated. Labor actually was not. This has a lot to do with macroeconomics, including government spending, because government spending helps the top 1% or the wealthy class. Why? Because they own. The number one thing you need to do is work hard to gain knowledge. Use your knowledge to leverage your income. Create income and save as much as you can to have investment capital. If you don't, you need to look and learn skills and trades in capital markets. That's ownership of some kind. And then you can use other people's capital. No matter how you look at it, though, the starting point is education. You have to learn the game, the laws, and how the system works, or you can't win in it. But it is a system of progress. Don't stop, keep going. Even though you don't know how you're going to get there, that's okay. It takes time, decades. But as you go, you learn more, you work harder, you try to leverage what you can, and as you do that, little things become big things. That's how leverage works. The vast majority of returns that anyone makes is later on in life. Over 90% of all of Warren Buffett's wealth came to him after the age of 60. Don't give up. Work hard and get to a point where your money works for you, or you're using other people's money to work for you. Let the market and capital make your returns, not your labor.